Hi, I'm William Miller, teaming up with Literary Rebel to bring you the 5 reasons you need an outline for your novel. The battle between outlining and freestyling, I refuse to call it pantsing, will rage on long after I've shuffled off this mortal coil. But I offer free advice for those impressionable writers that are still on the fence. All of the successful authors that I know who actually make money from their fiction use plot outlines in one form or another. Of course, there are and always will be exceptions to the rule. There's always going to be those few just insanely talented individuals who can sit down and churn out a novel without any forethought. These are the exception to the rule, right? And if you are that writer, you already know this, and I'm not talking to you. You can just sit down and go for it. For all the rest of us, you need to actually have some sort of outline, some sort of game plan in place before you sit down to write. So here's the top 5 reasons you need an outline before you start your novel. Number 1, with an outline, you know where you're going and how you're going to get there. For most authors, especially beginning writers, the biggest barrier to publication is actually finishing a first draft. There is very few reliable statistics on this, but most people agree that only 30 out of every 1,000 people who start to write a novel are actually going to finish it. The problem, and we hear this from beginning authors all the time, is that they get lost in their own novel. They sit down and write, and the beginning goes okay, and then they lose momentum. They don't know what happens next. Their characters start doing things that they never planned, and they just lose direction. They lose focus. Starting with an outline saves you from stalling out halfway through a 400-page novel. You'll know where the story is going next and how you're going to get there. As an added bonus, starting with an outline is going to let you know whether you've got enough material for a full novel or just a novella or a short story. A lot of beginning writers sit down and they think, oh, this is going to make a great book, and they start writing, and then the story's only 120 pages long. That's not a novel. A novel is 60,000 words. Starting with an outline is going to tell you whether or not you got enough for a full novel or a shorter work. Number 2, an outline reveals plot holes before you begin. Many aspiring authors sit down to churn out, this 80,000, 100,000 word novel, and then they hand it to a friend, a spouse, a loved one, and they expect glowing reviews only to get holes shot in their book. There's no worse feeling than working for months or even years on a book and to have someone point out a huge hole in the plot that you didn't notice while you were in the rapture of composition. Having a plot outline will give you an opportunity to go over the story and make sure that there are no gaping holes in your plot before you actually sit down to do the writing. Number 3, outlines reduce the amount of rewrites you're going to need to do. The dreaded rewrite. Every author I know loves the process of writing the first draft. That's when the story is fresh, it's fun. If you don't enjoy writing the first draft, this is probably not the job for you. But something happens as soon as you type the in. The story loses immediacy. By the time you're done writing the first draft, you've wrung every drop of creative energy out of your brain. As far as your frontal cortex is concerned, the work is done. There's no need to bother with that anymore. However, experienced writers know that the first draft is the fun part, and once you're done with that, the work is just beginning. Once you're done with the first draft, you're going to need a second draft, and a third draft, sometimes a fourth draft. If you're anything like most writers, you're going to spend more time in rewrites and edits than you are on the first draft. And authors who write instinctually, authors who don't use a plot outline, frequently need the second draft just to make the novel work. They got to use the second draft to fix all the plot holes and work out all the kinks. The more time and attention you give to your plot outline, the less time and work you're going to do on the back end. Authors who freestyle, authors who just write instinctually, frequently need 6 or more drafts in order to put out a book that's ready for publication. Authors who rely on a story outline usually only need 3. They do the first draft to get the story on paper, the second draft to tighten up their style, and then the third draft is a polish, and then it's off to publication. That difference equates to months of hard work. So if you're trying to get the most bang for your buck, if you're trying to actually earn your living from your writing, having that plot outline so you reduce the amount of drafts you need is going to be the make or break difference for you. Number 4, an outline improves readability for the reader. Have you ever read a novel and the story just seems to wander? You, as the reader, find yourself treated to these long blocks of text where characters ruminate on things that have no bearing on the story. Minor characters wander on stage and do things that in the end didn't affect the plot. When you finally get to the end of the book, if you get to the end of the book, you realize that the story could have been 250 pages instead of 600. The author stuffed the book with a lot of fiddle-faddle that didn't need to be there. Twilight. Sorry. If you've had that experience, and most readers do sooner or later, you are probably reading a work by an author that didn't use a plot outline. That wandering story progression is a telltale sign that the writer didn't know where the hell the story was going and they were just sort of freestyling it. An outline gives your story more structure. It helps move the narrative from point A to point B in a logical, consistent, timely method. That, in turn, will help keep your reader engaged. The reader may not consciously recognize the structure, but their subconscious brain appreciates the tightly structured organization of your novel, and it enhances their enjoyment of the story. That's why authors like James Patterson need to rake in their earnings with a backhoe, right? His sentence styling might not win any awards, but he has the ability to craft a very tight story arc that's just second to none, and that's why he's so successful as an author. It's structure. Number 5, an outline improves your productivity. Authors who freestyle, who write instinctually, spend a lot of time at the beginning of each writing session staring off into space, wondering where the story goes next. Most reliable estimates show that those authors spend anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes staring out the window, wondering what their characters are up to. Let's assume that you type an average of 50 words per minute. That navel gazing is going to cost you anywhere from 750 to 1,500 words a day. Even at slower typing speeds, you're still spending large tracts of time pondering story developments when you should be writing. Authors who use outlines sit down, they consult their outline real quick, and then they dive right into the action. They know where the story is going and how they're going to get there. It eliminates the need to stare out the window for 15 minutes trying to figure out what your characters are up to. Life is busy. Writers struggle to carve out the time they need to actually sit down and write. With full-time jobs, kids, bills, and all the other stuff crowding your life, time is a precious commodity. With such hectic schedules, don't waste valuable time gazing out the window when you could be writing. Start with an outline and get busy. For those of you who have never used an outline before and you don't even know where to begin, Literary Rebel has created this free ebook. It's yours. We're going to put a link to it in the description below. No catch. It's just something we thought would be fun that people would get a lot of use out of. It's called Crafting Fiction Volume 1 Hard-Boiled Outlines. Like I said, just head on over to the link, click download, and it's yours. We hope you get a lot of use out of it. And please be sure and comment and let us know whether you liked it, you hated it, what you want more of or less of. We'd love to hear from you. And if you like this video, be sure and click the like and the subscribe button. If you don't like this video, well, screw you. I'm William Miller for LiteraryRebel.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.